Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, and I'm here today with Alex Grintsvayg. I hope that's the correct pronunciation. Better known as Grin. He is the LBRY co-founder and one of the co-founders, and he's the ETO, mainly in charge of all the tech stuff. So we're going to be finally getting into the nitty-gritty of LBRY tech and all that good stuff that I know you guys are interested in hearing about. But just before we do, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Awesome. So before we dive into everything, can you just give a little bit of a background about yourself and how you originally got into crypto?
Sure. I got into crypto. Well, I started hearing about and learning about Bitcoin in 2011 maybe, or 2012 when it first came out. And I was working with Jeremy, my co-founder, on our previous company. And after a while, we were like, man, Bitcoin sounds pretty cool. It's getting more popular. We started learning about the technology. That's what we got really interested in at first. And eventually we saw blockchain technology as a solution to some of the problems that BitTorrent has. We're both really into distributed systems like peer-to-peer protocols. Mm-hmm. And once that kind of made that connection, we couldn't unsee it. And eventually we're like, hey, we should try this thing. BitTorrent doesn't have things like identity, doesn't have like a centralized catalog of everything. It has kind of issues with sketchy content. You can't monetize on top of it. Mm-hmm. You could solve all those things with Bitcoin or a Bitcoin like system. And eventually we were like, all right, we're doing it. And we made LBRY.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. And for people, I mean, everyone who's watching really should be familiar with LBRY, but just in case they're new, do you want to just give a really brief summary of what LBRY is?
Sure. So we like to say that LBRY does to content and publishing what Bitcoin does to money. And the idea is that it's a peer-to-peer protocol where you can publish content, you can access content, you can pay creators for content, and it's run by the people who are running it. There's no centralized piece. If LBRY Inc., the company, disappeared, the protocol would live on, kind of like Bitcoin. You can use it. You can download it. You can use it on your computer, on your phone. If you want to try it on the web, the best way to try it is Odysee.com, which is a kind of a web version of LBRY. It uses the LBRY protocol underneath. And yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Yeah. So
probably watching this video on Odysee.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And the way that I used to look at it was as an alternative to YouTube. And the way that I look at it now is a successor to YouTube. Which is a very clear distinction. And I know there's
working.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of I guess confusion or misconception about Lab from Mars, LBRY, Odysee. Do you want to just do like a little quick breakdown of what is the difference between all these different things so that just to clarify, I guess, from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. So we naming is hard. Naming is one of the hard problems in computer science and also in real life. And originally we named everything LBRY, and it got to the point where it was pretty confusing. So now we're trying to split up LBRY and Odysee. So LBRY is the protocol. It's the decentralized parts of it. It's if you download if you go to GitHub, it's called LBRY. And Odysee is like Coinbase, and LBRY is like Bitcoin, right? Odysee is a company. Odysee is trying to run a business. It's using LBRY, the protocol, the same way Coinbase uses Bitcoin, and it's not trying to be decentralized in the same way that LBRY is. LBRY is trying to be just like Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's like a great way to put it. And I think LBRY TV is kind of coming to a conclusion, correct?
LBRY TV was a little bit stuck in the middle because it's on the web it's run by us. It's not, nobody else can really do much with it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like Odyssee's doing a lot of the similar things.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to figure out what to do with that. And we would like Odysee to support all the same stuff that LBRY TV does, and merge them together. So I don't see it as like it's going away. We want that to exist. People want to use LBRY on the web, and people want a way to access that content.
Mm-hmm.
And also we would like, LBRY TV is open source. Anyone can run LBRY TV. If you wanted your own version, like you can run LBRY TV just for content in Japanese. You can run LBRY TV just for music videos.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a really good way to explain it for people who are familiar with something like Steam or Hive was that Steam was the protocol and Steam It was the platform, or the first platform to be built on Steam. And there was always so much confusion around that. But eventually people kind of like figured out, it's like, okay, one is just the interface and one is the actual protocol. And there's a little bit of that with LBRY and Odysee too, but LBRY is like the Steam, and Odysee is like the Steam It, but I guess the centralized version versus the decentralized app version. Well,
another way is, so like there's SMTP and Gmail, right?
Yeah.
Or HTTP and whatever website you like. Same idea.
Yeah, perfect. And so you mentioned before we got on that you guys are trying to grow the LBRY community more. Do you want to speak a little bit to that and maybe talk about the LBRY Fund and what that's all about and how people can get involved in that?
Sure. Yeah, this is the LBRY community funding proposal. Is a little new. So the idea is that I feel like there are a lot of people who want to build things on top of LBRY, using LBRY. There's a big developer community out there, but at least I have not done a very good job making it easy for that developer community to do what it wants to do. It's tough for people to find each other. There's the Discord, which is great, and there's people on there. But I know if I joined the Discord today, I'd be like, what is everyone working on? What other projects are out there? How can I get involved? And that's not that easy. It's also can be a little tricky to navigate the funding. Like there's LBRY.fund, which I think is great. If I have a big vision, it's concrete, and I know exactly what I want to do, I can apply for funding. But if I don't know, if I run a Twitter account and I tweet about LBRY and I want to educate people about LBRY, it might be a little trickier. There's also one of the problems with funding is as the people with the funds to give out, you have to make decisions on behalf of the community for what would be best for the community. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to do that because the community is big and the community has different interests, and sometimes you don't see all of it. It's kind of the same problem as anyone who has to make decisions on behalf of anyone else. So it would be nice to have a system that is more decentralized, more democratic, more about people being like, I like this, and if other people like it, we'd like it to get funding.
Yeah.
So the funding proposal is kind of a similar thing that Gitcoin does for Ethereum. There's a project called Gitcoin Grants where the Ethereum Foundation and other large organizations put up Ether to match the community's contributions, and the community can go in and vote and contribute their own ETH, and then these large organizations will match it. They've been running it for a couple of years. It works pretty well. It's grown from something pretty small to something that's very large. It's a big part of how ETH gets distributed to the community, and I thought it would be cool if we had a similar system. So I put it out, kind of wrote it up.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's really sweet. And where can people go and actually get started and check that out?
It doesn't exist yet. I only wrote this thing last week.
Fair enough.
So if you're on Discord, we talked about it a little bit in the Discord chat, and also the community podcast. Lex mentioned it last week, I believe. So if this is right now, if it's something you want to see happen, you're just gonna have to wait just a little bit. If you want to contribute, if you want to make it happen, for example, if you're a web designer, I could use help getting it looking good. Or if you're a developer, you want to help us build it. We've only just started making it. There's not much code written yet, but we're looking for people who are interested in that. If you're on Discord, message me, or what channel? The Initiative Discussions channel, I believe, is where we discussed it. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll help you out.
Awesome. So a big question people always have with blockchain social platforms, and when they're looking at just platforms outside of the legacy space, is, well, there's a few things. Some of the big concerns are privacy, free speech, and censorship, and then monetization, and a few other things. But the first one I'd like to dive into is censorship. So how does LBRY ensure that that's not possible? And what are some of the high level explanations that you could give for that?
Yeah, this is a common question we get. I would say the core idea of LBRY is we want people to have control. We want people to have the freedom of choice to watch or not watch whatever they want. So if there's good reasons for censorship, actually, for if my daughter is watching LBRY, I don't want her watching certain types of content. I want to be able to censor what she sees. Mm-hmm. Versus if someone is really wants to watch a certain kind of content, they should be allowed to. So we want to put the control in the hands of the publishers, the users, to make decisions for themselves. So what we do there is we try and make it as decentralized as we can. We try and put the control, the decision making down to the level of the person who's most affected by it. We do that in a couple ways. So the blockchain is kind of a place where people can publish content that we don't have as much control over. I can't remove something from the blockchain. Similarly to Bitcoin. And then on top of that, so this is where we get to use the language of LBRY and Odysee, right? Odysee does make decisions about what content shows up. There's, mature content is not on Odysee, at least not yet. And if it would be opt-in. It would be something that you have to make an active decision to see. Similarly, Odysee is a U.S. company. There are U.S. laws we have to obey, and we will obey them. But if you live outside the U.S. or if you're subject to different laws, you should be able to run similar tech stack to what Odysee runs and make your own decisions about what kind of content is available on your website. Same as, again, we use the analogy of Gmail and email, right? Gmail makes decisions about how Gmail works, how Gmail looks, but SMTP, the protocol, anyone can use it for whatever they want to use it for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great comparison. And then another big thing that I haven't gotten a specific answer about is there's platforms that are starting to do KYC requirements, whether it's for earning or, withdrawing your funds or whatever it happens to be. The bigger concern than just, verifying an email or whatever is requiring that they have to send in an ID. Is there any potential of that happening with LBRY? Or I guess rather, given that you're not forced to by regulation, would that ever be in a roadmap in the future?
We don't have any plans to do anything like that right now. I mean, we'd prefer not to, right? Because our users would prefer not to. Can I tell you that will never happen? I mean, I can't. I don't know the future, so I can't say that'll never happen. Our laws could change. It might be something we might be required to do. Mm-hmm. But it's not something I would want to do.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. Because, I mean, obviously you can't anticipate regulation, but in terms of your ethos, I think it's pretty clear that you guys are not
Yes,
moving
definitely.
towards something like that. Okay, that's good to hear.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of things like privacy, how is that handled with LBRY?
So, I mean, with all these things, there's trade-offs. So we know that people like privacy. It's important. We actually posted on our privacy a year or two ago, asking the community like, what can we do better?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest suggestion we got was drop Google Analytics, which we don't use anywhere anymore. So we're working on those things as much as we can. On the other hand, there are projects that are much more focused on privacy than we are. You know, something like Zcash or Monero, like they're trying to be as private as possible. For us, that's not at the top of our list. We follow Bitcoin, we do our best, but we can't. We have to pick a focus, and we have to execute very well on that focus. And privacy is not that focus for us. For us, that focus is choice with content, publishing videos, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I guess you're thinking more in terms of like how private are transactions and such, but I guess I should have phrased the question a little bit differently. Personal data collection is more what I was thinking in terms of LBRY as like the social platform of LBRY and collecting user data and then the privacy around that, I guess. What is the current, like, how do you guys currently deal with that?
Gotcha. Well, if privacy is important to you, the best way to go about it is to use the app, right? If you download the app on your computer, you open it on your computer, you check the box that says don't share information. There's no information shared with us. You get information from the blockchain, you get information from the peer-to-peer network. Maybe if we tried really hard, which we don't do, but if we wanted to, we could do something like maybe collect IPs, but that's like you can use a VPN, so it's not your IP there either.
Mm-hmm.
So there are options. You can run LBRY over Tor. I don't think we make that easy, but we'd like to make that easy. So we want like a strong level of privacy to be possible. Then on the other hand, if you use something like Odysee or using a centralized service, you're sending requests directly to our servers, so we get things like your IP. Again, we don't want to do things like collect your data, sell your data to other people. But certainly the more private version is running it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of like the way that LBRY, I guess here, let me rephrase my question. When people are using Odysee versus using LBRY at a high level, like what can they really expect to see different? Like, I know what's different, but what is different from the user perspective when they're using these platforms?
Well, Odysee looks different. It has kind of a different vibe to it. It's a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more playful, maybe, is how I would describe it. It has things like fire and slime, which the app doesn't have. It has things like what's another good example? Like the way that some of the categories work are very different. But otherwise, as far as the content that's available on both is roughly the same, minus a few categories we don't show. And Odysee will, just because of the nature of how development works, it's a lot easier to develop something that's centralized.
Mm-hmm.
So there will probably be times where we're like testing something and we want to test it quickly, and we might show it on Odysee, a little bit before it comes out to the apps, just because it's faster to do development that way.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, is getting to be less and less of an issue as the blockchain space, gets better. When we first started, there were very few tools for things. Like, we had to make transactions by hand because there was no way of doing multi-sig transactions in, Bitcoin version, whatever it was. Today, there's way more tools. This kind of thing happens a lot better. So hopefully that gap is closing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the differences.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to realize that you should not expect the app, the decentralized version, to be, to have all the same features as a centralized version, because you guys basically have to build these features from scratch, whereas any other social platform has access to this massive toolbox that is not really there for blockchain. Can you speak a little to that? Like, how much more work goes into like building something completely new versus just adding another centralized feature, or like branching off of something that already exists?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's day and night. Um, a lot of the stuff that a centralized application does is kind of established. I mean, there's definitely new things. I'm not going to say it's all locked in place, but like if you look at YouTube, it's fundamentally the same that it was 5 years ago. 10 years ago, you can watch videos. Like some things have changed. It's faster, it looks better, it can pick the right quality of video to send you. They've added things. They've added like the live chat. But a lot of it's the same underneath. There's a database, you make requests, you get the videos. For a blockchain, a lot of the stuff now is easier, but when we started, we're on year 5 now, I think, that the blockchain's been running. It was a lot harder. And even today, let's say we wanted to make a big change to the blockchain layer. By design, that's very hard to do. The whole point is we kind of tied our hands. We've credibly promised we won't change things. We promised it's, the community has a say in these things by choosing what nodes they run, that kind of thing. So sometimes when there's a feature that we're thinking of and we don't know exactly how it's going to work, it can be easier to, to do it on a centralized one. And then once we've nailed down, okay, this is exactly how we want it to work, then we develop that on top of the blockchain. So something like comments. Right now, comments are on Odysee. They're not on the blockchain, but we'd like to put them on the blockchain. So once we figure out what structure we want, nested versus not nested, how it works, we'd like to get them on chain.
Awesome. Will we ever see blockchain live streaming? I've personally said I don't see how it would be done in the way that I would assume it would have to be done for it to be like true blockchain live streaming, quote unquote. But I'm curious to hear from you.
Yeah, it's possible. And we have some ideas for it. But just like I was saying with comments, so we're doing live streaming on Odysee first.
Yeah.
To like figure out kind of the details, and then we want to get it. But yeah, it's doable. You can do sending live data over BitTorrent today, and our peer-to-peer network is very similar to BitTorrent. So it is possible. It's definitely trickier, and you would need to make sure that the BitTorrent network has like a certain level of a certain size, a certain speed to it. It's a lot easier to control those things with a centralized service. Like you can just buy bandwidth, but you can't buy decentralized bandwidth.
Yeah.
Not yet. I don't know if there's a company working on this now. If they are, probably worth a lot of money.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's definitely possible. As for when it's going to happen, I don't like to make promises like that. I can tell you what we're working on now and what's kind of important to us, but I don't want to say it'll be this year or it'll be next year. Like that's just setting everyone up for disappointment or setting myself up for being a liar, which I don't like to do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, just because I've done some reviews of platforms that do have live streaming, but it's not like really like using the blockchain, or even in most cases, even like a little bit integrated with the blockchain. It's just like a fully centralized thing. And then they have crypto monetization usually. But I'd like to see something that actually integrates with the blockchain to some level. And I think, and I've been sort of just expecting that LBRY was going to do something first, but it's good to hear that that's like somewhat on your minds in the roadmap. Is there anything that you can share that is in the works right now, or coming out soon that we should look out for?
Live streaming is the big one. I mean, we've been testing it for a while. and we're trying to, what we want to do is kind of start small and grow.
Yeah.
Just like trying to do the same thing with the funding, is start small and grow. It's kind of our approach. So yeah, we've been testing it for a while. We've had like maybe 10 creators try it out. I could be wrong. But we're always, we have one person try it and we just get like a list of, we got to fix these things. And then we have one more person try and we have another list of things to fix. But yeah, it's coming. I think the hard part with live streaming actually is, I would say, is not the blockchain piece. It's more the peer-to-peer piece. It's like getting people the data from your camera to, their computers as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The blockchain part is, you have to figure out how to do it, but I would say it's less complicated than the peer-to-peer part.
True. Yeah, I guess that's partially what I meant. Like, if you were going to use the blockchain, how would you deal with the bandwidth to actually getting that to people is kind of where I was thinking. What do you expect for the next year, the next 5 years? Where do you see LBRY and Odysee in that time? I guess in an ideal world.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to answer, right? There's a lot of uncertainty in the future. So we want to keep our options open, but we're moving in kind of the same direction we've been moving. We want to give people as much control as we can. That's really what people want. People want to make decisions for themselves. People want to click the button and watch the video, and they don't want to have someone else telling them like, no, you can't, or you have to do this, you have to. So we're always moving in that direction.
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
People want to communicate with each other, right? People want to chat with each other. People want to send each other messages. So future for LBRY. I think maybe the biggest thing missing on LBRY is more of this discovery moderation type of stuff. Like, there's so much information in the blockchain about what people have posted, but also like what people have tipped, what people have not commented on yet, but hopefully we'll have comments there. You can use that information to figure out things like you can recommend videos to people without that privacy invasive kind of thing of sucking up all their information. So I think that's something that I'm really excited about. It's probably, at least a year out, but we have some things in the works that are just getting started. So if anyone is listening to this and they're interested in machine learning, or they're interested in how that applies to blockchain, how to build recommender systems on top of blockchain data, I'd love to talk to you, especially if you have ideas for how to do it in a way that's, like we talked about, privacy preserving, in a way that it's not, you need to know every video I've watched to recommend me video, or videos to watch.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. One thing I'm also really curious about is where, or I guess when or where do we expect to see ads with LBRY, or like ad monetization rather, for creators? And I mean where, as in, would that be on both, or would that just be on Odysee? And what might that look like? Right.
So ads are, I know a lot of people hate them. I don't like them either, but I'm not going to say that ads are 100% bad. I think that ads definitely have an upside. There are plenty of people who are happy to watch ads if they get the content for free, and that's fine. But again, we're in the land of user choice. So if you're the kind of person who wants to watch ads, that's fine. I see ads as there's three parties involved, right? There's me, there's you, the creator, and there's the person who wants to run the ads. And if you, the creator, is saying my video costs 5 credits to watch, and I, the viewer, have a choice. I can pay 5 credits, or I can watch a 30-second video, in which case whoever made the ad pays you 5 credits. That's a way where users can have a choice of, I get to watch the ad, the content for free and watch an ad, or I get to pay for it, or so that's what we think about ads right now. Where they're going to show up, probably on Odysee first. Again, it's the more centralized one, and it's the one that it makes the most sense to run ads on. I don't know if they'll ever come to LBRY. I don't even know if that would work. honestly, but it might someday. It might not even be us, right? Like anyone can build on top of LBRY. If somebody builds the library that's funded by ads and it's way better than our library, go for it. More power to you.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, and the reason I ask is just because naturally there's only going to ever be so many rewards for like so many LBC view rewards tips. So is that generally what you expect to replace that eventually, or is there maybe something else as well? What are your thoughts there?
There's a couple of different ways to do it. It can be ads, it can be subscriptions, right? Subscriptions are a great business model. It's kind of the original, right? I make a thing and you pay me for it. It's very direct, right? Patreon, it works. Substack, it works. So that's a thing that might happen. It might be something else. There's a lot of exploration now with different types of like business, like DeFi is kind of like, all right, we're gonna do something interesting with finance, but I think they're also kind of exploring different funding models and different ways of creators making money that's not ad based. I think the real problem with ads is the perverse incentives it sets up. Right? If I run ads and that's how I make money, then I'm incentivized to get as much of your attention, whether or not you want to give it to me. And I'm incentivized to get as much of your data, whether or not you want to give it to me. So if we can avoid that, then there's lots of different ways it can be done. It can be a way that we haven't even really thought about yet.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see how that progresses and how you guys kind of bridge that gap for LBC rewards, and I think the current system is phenomenal for what it is doing. So absolutely an amazing job on your end. And as I've said before, I've been tracking my earnings with LBRY for quite some time, and it has almost always consistently been the top earner out of every blockchain platform that gives out any kind of monetization rewards, because I am on all of them. So that's pretty fantastic. And that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. Is there anything tech related that you think we should dive into, or maybe some sort of misconceptions that should be addressed about LBRY or Odysee?
I don't know.
I mean, if there aren't a lot of misconceptions, then that's also not bad.
Well, it might be that I don't know about the misconceptions, right? To me,
Fair
I'm
enough.
so close to the project. I know so much about it. But I do know that people struggle with, for example, LBRY versus Odysee. It took us a while to make the decision to change it. So if there's other things that are confusing or difficult in other ways, like I'm happy to kind of hear that from you. I don't think I have all the answers.
True. I mean, if you want one quick take, I would just say people sometimes get confused with supports as to how that all works. So I guess I'll give my little summary of how I believe it works, and then maybe you could reiterate the official way. So the way that I see a lot of people doing it is they think that you need to like leave your supports on your videos indefinitely, or like if you don't claim your tips, that's going to be like super helpful to just like leave them there. But instead, I say you're probably best to claim your tips and revoke your supports, and then support new videos, and or use the bidding system to get on the top of the listings with your URL. But there's a lot to it. But I think people get a little confused around supports and like how long you should leave them, or like, should I reclaim my tips or should I leave them on my videos? Do you want to just give like a brief summary of that, and or like what are some of maybe the best practices for like new users?
Yeah, that's a good one. So that also changes. So that's actually, a lot of that was done by Brendan Brewer who I did a video with a little while ago, and he's the expert. He talks about he designed the trending algorithms. He talks about the best way to do it. So the way it works now is when you support something, it like jumps up in the attention or the rankings of the trending algorithm, and then after a while, it drops back down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you have a video that is a week or two old, I don't know exactly how long it takes to get to baseline, but if it's been a couple weeks, you could totally revoke it. It'll drop down for a little while, but then again, it'll come back up. It's about each change in how much support it has pushes it up or down, and then it over time trends back to 0. And a big change pushes it up or down more, but it's not linear. So adding 1,000 LBC versus 2,000 LBC, it's not going to make that big of a difference. But adding 1 versus 100, it will make a big difference.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. So the way I would do it, so let's see, it depends what you're trying to do. If you're trying to support other people's content, like if you're trying to tip other people, you just tip them. If you're trying to boost their content, at least temporarily, I would support it. And then after a couple of weeks, it's fine to just take your support off and move it around to something else. You can also take it off for a few weeks and then put it back on if you think you want it to come back.
Yeah. I think one of the really powerful things about LBRY that maybe most people might not realize at first is that you're basically, with supports, given the ability to boost, quote unquote, or I want to say advertise your video more to the network, but that's not necessarily the right word. So I'll just say boost. But you do that basically for free. Whereas on most platforms, it's not free. It's you spend it and it's been spent. And then based on how much you spend is how much reach you'll get. Whereas with LBRY, it's just however much is put in will boost your reach. And then based on, how much people actually like it and want to view it, then they will see that. And then, as you mentioned, people can also support your videos as well, again, for free. So I think that's really powerful that you can support your own content and other people can support you for free, so that it really makes the barrier of entry very, very low for people to test this out and actually take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's about sending a credible signal that this is important to you, right? If somebody takes the time or like takes their credits and puts it towards a video as a support, they're saying, that this is something I really care about. It's much more credible than, writing a comment. I can write a comment on every video on LBRY, but I can't boost every video with my LBC that way. And there's, you can go further with this, right? There could be a way in which it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing it in a way that I can get it back. I'm doing it in a way that I can't get it back, right? Tipping is like kind of even more of a stronger signal. Yeah. I'm saying I really want this creator to have my credits. And we want to strike a balance between, again, like one person supporting something a lot versus a lot of people supporting it a little bit. It's a similar idea as quadratic funding, as the funding proposal. It's like you want projects to be supported if a lot of people want them, or if few people want them a lot. You want both those cases to be covered. And I think Brendan did a good job with the trending algorithm that it does that. That it's not, if I have a ton of LBC and I put it all in one video, it's not gonna make it just jump to the very top.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And he's the one behind LBRYnomics, correct?
That's right.
Yes, yeah, that's a great site for people to go and check out. Just a ton of data and statistics about LBRY and just all the metrics of what's going on in the platform. And I think it's just really nice to have a full, transparent view of a lot of that information that you don't otherwise see on most platforms. So that is really awesome to see as well.
Yeah, Scott, I love that you and us are on the same page about transparency.
Yeah, I think it's lacking in platforms and just creators and anything. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I really go out of my way to be transparent about my metrics, my earnings, like pretty much everything. Just because like that's how you really form that trust with the users, because if they know that there's nothing being hidden, then there's there's no question of integrity, and when they can verify for themselves, then that's all you really need, right? When you've got, when it's not the the checkers checking themselves, like that's what you want. So yeah, that's pretty much everything on my end. Where can people go and follow you, and where can they follow LBRY, and where's the best place for people to check all this stuff out?
Me personally, I'm sometimes on Twitter at grin_io, and also have a website, grin.io. I write there sometimes. That's the best place to find me. Or I'm on LBRY, grin on LBRY. LBRY itself, LBRY.com, is the best place to get the application, to learn about the protocol. LBRY.tech is the technical side of it. If you're a developer or you want to play around with how the pieces fit together. And then Odysee.com is our Coinbase, right? It's the best way to use the LBRY protocol if you want to watch content, publish content, and there's a smooth transition from Odysee, the centralized version, to the LBRY apps. It's very easy to switch from one to the other. So if you want the lowest barrier to entry, it's Odysee.com. If you want the most control, the most privacy, LBRY.com.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. I hope people got a lot out of this and learned, a bunch of different things about LBRY, as well as just, it's good to hear from someone actually working at LBRY kind of clarify and confirm all these things. So again, really, really appreciate it. And everyone, make sure to go and follow him, follow LBRY, check all that stuff out. And if you're not already on LBRY, I don't know what you're doing. Definitely get on there as well. I'll include my invite link in the description as well. Anyways, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Awesome. All right. Cheers.